The fourth technique is watercolor pencils, or using watercolor pencils. And these are really intimidating for a lot of students because a lot of students are afraid of drawing, but they can be really, really good tools. You're gonna experiment with watercolor crayons next time, but the pencils are for detail. So if I was going to paint a human's eyeball, I might use the watercolor crayon to get the actual colors in the colored part of the eye, but I would definitely use a watercolor pencil if I wanted to do really crisp black eyelashes on there. So there's dry method with these and there's a wet method, and I want you to see both. So we're gonna end up using 2 squares for this technique, whatever squares you want. The first technique is just putting pigment down first and then putting water over it. No color, at least to get started. So I want everybody to draw the same thing. So what are we gonna draw? A flower. Let's just do a flower. So I'm going to draw the center. And then again with this, you have to put pigment on there. This is just a dried up chunk of like watercolor. That's all it is. So if you don't have enough on there, it's gonna do absolutely nothing. So you really need to transfer a lot of pigment on there for the water to work with. So I'm gonna like shade the center, and then I'm just gonna add some petals to my flower. And then I'm gonna add, I'm not gonna color it in solid, but I'm gonna give it some dimension. So I'm gonna kind of like color in the center of this, kind of give it a little bit to work with. Okay, then I have no paint on my brush. So if your water is really murky, it's gonna ruin it. If you have black water right now, it's gonna kill it. So make sure you have enough clear water. And then I'm just gonna use my brush and I'm gonna paint where I want to smear, and my water's just a little bit murky, but I'm gonna paint where I wanna activate that color and just kind of drag the watercolor around. And it kind of gives it this painterly technique, but you still have detail. So it's really cool if you're drawing fish's eyeballs, fish's scales, little spines in fish's fins. So I'll do that. And you can layer this too. If it dries and you're like, that's just not enough, I didn't put enough on there, it's not really doing anything, then you can let it dry and do it again, no harm. So there's the, starting with it dry. I'm gonna do one more thing for you. So maybe you can kind of see, add a stem, get it really dark, and maybe add, okay, I'm gonna add some of that on there. Okay, and then I'm gonna like color this in, smear that green. There we go, it's enough to work with. Like, there we go. Woo. All right, so there's my little flower growing. Then I could do the wet technique, because this is wet. You can draw directly on here with the pencil. It's just gonna activate it and make it really dark right away. So this is the dry pencils. We're gonna do that first, okay? Now, I'm gonna pause the video, come back. I'm gonna do wet technique. So let's say I want to have just a wet surface here. I've created the wet surface. Maybe I'm gonna do an eyeball. So I'm gonna kind of like slap the water on the paper where I want it to be, and it's in the shape of like an oval or an eyeball. And then I'm gonna use the pencil and kind of draw over the water. So it's more vivid and bright to begin with. And you have less control of it this way. Let's do that. Maybe use black. There's my eye. So then you can go back and add more water if you want to. It just looks painterly, but you cheated. You didn't really use brushes. So dry technique, draw it first, put water on it. Wet technique, you put the water down and put the bright colors, and it instantly gets damp and is more vivid. So it just depends. So I want you to do one square like this and one square like this.